Hello and welcome to another video. Today we're going to talk about controlling for variability or controlling for variables, and I guess we'll get into it. Okay, so what are variables and why do we need to control for them? And so variables are anything that can change. So we might actually be looking at, like for example, our measured variable, the thing that we want to change, we want to see the change in, and we're going to measure for that to see if we can pick up any change. But there are other things that could create change that we don't want to create that change. We want to make sure that it's our treatment that's making any change and not some other factor. Okay? So anything, we're worried about controlling anything that might affect the outcome of our trial, of our experiment, and we're going to try and stop all the things that we can that aren't our treatment. So to do this, we want to try and keep as much as we can any difference between a treatment and a pre and post test exactly the same. So everything is pretty much exactly the same except for the treatment. And if you can't keep things the same, or it's not something that you can stop, you at least try to minimize any effect that that thing might have on the outcome. So I think the best way to do this is to go into some examples. So let's do that now. Okay, so here's some example. Those of you in my class will know that this is from a little video we showed. Okay, I want to see if what the ideal amount of water is to feed to a pot plant, or give to a pot plant. So I'm going to see what can I change. So one bean plant is given 50 mils once a day, and I give another watermelon plant 50 mils a day. So here I've controlled the amount of water they get per day, but the issue here is I haven't controlled the type of plant. So the different types of plant might grow at different rates, and therefore I can't tell about what the ideal amount of water it is to give to a plant. It's a silly example, but here we'll go with another one. Okay, so in this case, again, I'm trying to find out the ideal amount of water to give to a plant. One plant is kept in a window and given 50 mils of water a day, and the other plant is given 50 mils twice a day, but kept in a cupboard. So we've changed the amount of water, so that's good, but we haven't controlled we've put other variables in place, as in the location of this. So different locations, particularly when it's to do with sunlight and plant growing, can have an effect, but other locations can have an effect on your experimental units in lots of different ways. So amount of noise around, distractions, things like that. So we have to be careful to keep the locations the same. Okay, so here's a slightly better example, something more like you'd do in class. So I want to see if there's if students' concentration is affected by listening to music. So to put it in a way that should be in your question form, is there a difference in the student's ability to concentrate while listening to music or without listening to music? Okay, so students are given a difficult word search to complete while listening to music, and in the second test, students are given a difficult word search to complete listening to no music or not listening to any music. Can you think of some variables, just in this example that I've given you here, that I have controlled well for and some that I didn't control well for? So I'll give you a bit of time, hit pause and come back to me in a second. Make sure you hit pause and have a think about it. Okay, I'm going to assume that you've had the time to hit pause and that you're ready to go. So here are the things that I think obviously we're not very well controlled for. Okay, so the color of the two word finds. That's problematic. Maybe colour has something to do with people's ability to concentrate. Certainly for me, it seems like I can see the letters in the yellow one easier than I can the white one, less glare. So I didn't control well for colour. I need to think about that in another trial. The number of words, if you're really, really careful, the size of the word search and the number of words in the yellow word search, the happy birthday one, is actually considerably larger. There are a couple more words, but the word search has many more letters in it. So that's actually could be problematic, and someone might get a difference just simply because there are more words to find. So that's not really what you want to have happen in your experiment. Also, the familiarity of the words is it could be a problem. So in the birthday one, there's lots of easy words like fun and hats and all that sort of thing, things that everyone knows. Whereas in the candy store one, there's words, particularly in New Zealand, people might not know, like taffy and praline, marzipan, things that young people might not really be aware of or might not know those words, and that maybe not knowing what the words are could have an impact. So you just got to be aware of those things. Now here are some things that I think did do reasonably well. Well, I think that the difficulty of the words was similar, that they weren't too long. The type of test as well was very similar. So that's always really good. At least I did 2 word searches, and it wasn't like a word search and some like Sudoku puzzle or something like that, 2 very different tasks. So at least I kept that the same. Okay, so here's something else we're going to look at. We're going to look at a little bit of a test ourselves. Now this one we're going to try and control a little bit. What you need to do is you need to see if you can spot the difference. There's a bunch of letters and one of the letters is different. You need to try and find that letter as fast as you can. Can you look at the timer? I'm going to give you 20 seconds. You probably won't need that. I'm going to give you 20 seconds to look and see if you can find that difference, that different letter. Can you just remember the time on the timer when we get to it? Now I got this test from, you can see the little link down below, from a little website called newslocker.com, and I went on there to find a little concentration test. And maybe when you're doing your experiment, you might want to go looking for good places to find tests from, or at least get some research from. Okay, so here's your first one. I'm going to start the timer and then we'll get going. As soon as you can find it, just remember your time. Okay, cool. Maybe you found that way quicker than 20 seconds. That's fine. Maybe you didn't. What we're going to do is we're going to do a second test now, and there's a slight difference with it, and I'd just like you to do the same thing again. So here we go. Okay, well I think 20 seconds was way longer. You see down here that you can see that I was there. Now the difference here was meant to be that the cartoon was going to be slightly distracting, and hopefully that was going to distract you from finding the letter. That was reasonably well controlled. I had gave you similar amounts of time to find the thing. You were just going to do that as quickly as you could. The letters were the same. The test was exactly the same, apart from one little thing. There was a cartoon in one of them. So there was lots of good controls in that particular experiment. So let's just move on to finding out. Okay, to wrap up. Okay, we want any change that we observe in our measured variable to be because of our treatment, not some other reason. Okay, we do this by trying to keep everything the same in both tests except for that treatment. Okay, so one you've got with treatment and one's going to be without, so maybe you've got a pre and a post test, okay, or a post and a pre test, the other way around, which, sorry, a with and without. Then we've got, we need to get enough people in our experimental group. Now there's lots of differences between people, different abilities that people have. So someone might be really good at word searches, and to try and mitigate the impacts of little individual differences between people, we try to get big groups. Okay, and then the other thing is the behaviour of our experimental units. So people might cheat, that's behavioural. If people know what you're trying to find, maybe they act in a different way, so that they're trying to get a certain result, and that might impact your results. Maybe people don't even bother trying, and that impacts your results rather than your treatments because people aren't trying. So you've got to find ways to make these things happen. Cool. So that's it for controlling for variables. You can obviously dig a little bit deeper into this and do a bit of research on controlling for variables yourself. Good luck, and remember, better never stops.